in continuation of a voice box. So, as you all are familiar with, there are the four Asians of singing. This is what I mean by Asian, of course. So, we begin singing with respiration. And then we have phonation, the act of producing sound, followed by resonation and articulation. Now, I'm sure you recall from last week our discussion on phonation. So this week we'll be discussing resonation and articulation, or in other words, the resonators and the articulators. So let's first discuss the resonators, of which there are 5 to 7, depending on who you talk to. So I'll give you all 7, just so that you can get your money's worth. The first one that we discuss is actually the lowest, physically. It's the chest, or the chest cavity. So when you speak, you can sometimes feel a vibration in your chest. Everybody just talk quietly to themselves, or hum, and put your hand on your chest, and see if you can feel a subtle vibration. Talking quietly to yourself, just saying whatever, doesn't matter. Does anybody not feel their chest vibrate?
Oh, I feel my chest vibrate.
Yes, okay, excellent. So that's your first resonator. That vibration you feel is resonant.
Pledge allegiance
The second resonator we have, which is not always included in every sources because it's a bit bizarre, is the tracheal tree. It's called a tracheal tree because it's situated just above the lungs. It looks like a Y, and it attaches to the bronchial tubes and is right below your larynx. Scientists have shown that the tracheal tree vibrates at an E flat 4 in both men and women. I don't know why, but can we all just hum this note? Hum on an M hum, please. Now see if you put your hand near just below your Adam's apple. Do you feel a subtle vibration that's different than what your Adam's apple is?
Yeah,
It's low.
It's different from when you're down the octaves.
Yes.
For us who don't usually touch this part of our body when we're singing, should we try a different note for contrast?
But like,
Yes, exactly. Thank you. So we've got this one, and then we have, let's try. You might notice you don't feel this lower vibration. You feel higher, or in your chest, but not in the same spot. Do you feel a difference? Go back to the E flat.
Yeah.
You see it?
I'm sold.
yeah.
It's very subtle, and the interesting thing about this resonator is that, at least with me, I notice it comes in more of a slow wave than some of the other resonators that have, they have more frequency to them in their vibrations. This resonator is just more dully periodic, just odd. So anyway, you got that one. Some people don't even include it when they discuss the resonators because honestly it doesn't play as much of a role as the others. Next we have the larynx. This is where your voice box, colloquial term, is housed. It's also the home of the vocal folds that vibrate. We'll discuss that in a little bit more. Then we've got the pharynx, which is also known as the throat. This is your most important resonator. This is your most important sort of phonation device, but this is the most important resonator. The throat has the most to do with the way our sound resonates. And that has a lot to do with the fact that it's very large in comparison to the larynx. The larynx is itty bitty. the throat is large in comparison, and whatever the walls of the throat are doing, that affects the sound more than anything else. So by the time the sound gets to the oral cavity, there's not a whole lot of change in resonance that can go on. You can't suddenly brighten up your sound just by moving your mouth a whole lot and expect everything to be great if your throat is tight and constricted. If your throat is tight and constricted, your sound's going to be tight and constricted even if your mouth is wide open. And the last one, I usually combine, even though some people say there are two. We have the nasal cavity and the sinuses. You can probably see why I tend to combine them into one, but some people teach them separately. By the way, the oral cavity just means the mouth. The nasal cavity and the sinuses is all up here. So let's do a little quick exercise to illustrate this. Everyone stand, please. So from here. Ning, ning, ah, ning, ning. Ning, ning, ah, ning, ning. Couple more. Ah, sorry, can't play with two hands. And think of a very buzzy when we do this. So here we go. Ning, 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 ah, ning, ning. Ning, 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 ah, ning, ning. All right. So the reason that we alternate the the reason we alternate the with the e is because that's a way to get a really good differentiation between this nasal cavity and this oral cavity. So the ning is very buzzy right in the nose. Everybody just go ning. And feel your nose. See if you can feel vibrations. So you can probably feel a good amount of vibration in the nose, and in the upper sinuses. Whereas if we go ning, you can probably feel it more in this part of your face, not so much in the nose. So just compare. Just go ning, 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 ning. Does everybody feel that difference?
Yeah.
Yeah. Some may describe it as a brightness. These are our resonators. These are what we need to use to produce good, intelligible sound. There is no one resonator that is more important than the other, and you cannot control one on its own. So even though we learn them separately, and we say, oh, there's 5 to 7 of these resonators, that doesn't mean that number 7 is the best one, or you can only use number 3 on Tuesdays. You have to use them all the time, and they're all equally important. Any questions? Okay, so now we're going to move on to the articulators. I tend to think of the articulators as my tools for communication. Without our articulators, we are unintelligible. So let's give an example of a few articulators that you probably all know about and use regularly. Your lips, your tongue, your jaw. These are all common articulators. Some other articulators we use that we may not think of as often are hard and soft palates. So with a clean finger, a chalky finger, you can stick your finger in your mouth and tap on the roof of the mouth. If you tap on the roof of the mouth, you probably feel a hard spot. Now, if you can shove your finger farther back without gagging, it's a lot softer back there. That's the difference between the hard and the soft palate. It's a silly demonstration, but it serves its purpose. You're never going to get the two confused again, right? Okay. So, so we've got lips, tongue, jaw, hard and soft palate. I suppose we could say cheeks, include those Some people include them. I don't actually think they play much more of a role than the jaws and the lips do combined, but one thing that does play a huge role is teeth. So these are the articulators we'll be discussing in this class, and the ones that we'll most often use for singing. Now there are certain sounds that are only employed by specific articulators, or to put it in another way, there are certain sounds that some of these articulators play a major role in. For example, anything that is dental, meaning consonants that have your tongue touching your teeth and your tongue are playing a central role. So everybody go, notice what your tongue is doing, and notice what your teeth are doing. Exactly. Your jaw and your lips are playing a very, very minor role in this instance because you can't very well go with your mouth closed. So you need to have jaw and lips helping out. To give an example of the palates at work, you can try a sound like g, 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 g,
Good.
g.
Good.
You can feel that it's a lot farther back. Sometimes the way Americans say L sounds like love is farther back with the palates and the tongue going together. Love.
Love.
Yeah, it's much different than in other languages. It's why you have to preface it because each language has its different techniques. If you were to use an L in, say, Italian, it's a lot brighter and it's with the top of the teeth only, like allora. It's more forward. So now that we know these articulators, we're going to do a couple of vocal warm-ups really fast that employ some of these different sounds so that we can really get a good feel of what all is needed to produce intelligible sounds. So let's stand up again. Starting here, nice, easy. Peep, 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 peep. 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 Good. Very nice. All right. I like what you all are using with your pay sound, especially. I can definitely hear the resonance, and I can tell that you're employing a very nice open throat, which is exactly what we need to have good resonance. All right. Let's move on to some more challenging consonants. Some of the more challenging ones are also referred to as hard consonants. For example, g, k, b. Those sounds, if they're not very clearly articulated, have a tendency to sound more like, oh, I don't know, p or something, just a little bit less intense. So, starting back down here, I'd like to go g, k, b, k, g. Nice and clear. G, k, b, k, g. G, k, b, k, g. Good, excellent. All right, can I have just this half of the room from Devin over to Larry? Back down here, I want to hear the same exercise, and I want you guys to listen carefully to see what you hear from them. Here we go. All right, what did you all hear?
Kind of like an O with an umlaut sound.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, the guzz sounded like a little more stronger than I was imagining they would. Like, they sound a little harder than soft, like g as opposed to g.
Yeah, yeah.
Like there was like a...
What about the b? Was the b clear?
I think so.
It's
Yeah.
weird for me.
Mhm.
But I heard g at the second time is softer than the first time. I mean, the first g is louder, clearer than
Mhm.
the second one.
So how did you all feel singing this exercise? Did you feel like you had to do a lot of work to get those sounds to be intelligible?
Yeah,
or?
I did.
Yeah.
Yeah, the good feels like I'm not going to be coming on the pitch really well. It feels like I'm going to be maybe coming in and landing on it as opposed to just kind of hitting it.
Exactly. Yeah. Some of these, what I refer to them as more challenging sounds, part of the challenge lies in the fact that so much is going on with your articulators that the resonance factor is not as free as, say, on an eh vowel or an e vowel where you can just kind of let it soar. But you have to think about all these other things just to get sound out. Let's do one more exercise all together and then we'll wrap it up.
Okay.
All right. So starting nice and high, right here. Bubblegum, bubblegum, bubblegum. I'm sorry. Bubblegum, 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 bubblegum.
Bubblegum, 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 bubblegum. Bubblegum, 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 bubblegum. Bubblegum, 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 bubblegum.
All right. Now having the vowels mixed in, does it make it easier to articulate these sounds?
Yeah, I feel like
Yes, I think so.
yeah, I feel like once I finally arrive on the last gum and like it's I don't know, it feels like all these other syllables have made that gum, that last nice and relaxed and the most resonant part. I feel like I definitely arrived somewhere with it.
Yep. So we'll talk next week more about how we can use these vowels to get us where we're going, and we'll discuss a little bit about shadow vowels as well.
Sounds, do some writing. Notice, question.